let's call the meeting to order. We could start with the bills.
Okay.
All right, my name is Jean Young, and I'm going to call this Finance and Property Committee to order. I'm the chairperson. To my right is Chad Worrell, who's a member of the committee, and to my left is Tim DeSorcy, who is our incredibly competent finance director. That was agenda item 1. If it's all right with the one committee member, if we could move item 3, which is approving bills, up, and then we'll get to the executive budget after approving the bills. If we in fact do that.
Right, yeah, you got August and September bills, so caught up here.
What were we paying you back for?
Page is it on?
Page 4. This could be a super secret Swiss bank account.
You back.
Tim
Are you in the August?
Yes.
Page 4?
That's what it says in the upper right-hand corner.
Oh, you 4. Oh, I'm sorry. Right, one of those was for a seminar, but the majority of that is that we acquired some tables for Helen Zoo House, and they were a lot cheaper at Sam's Club than online. So
Cool.
I ran up to Sam's Club to purchase them, and then
Works for me.
I'm getting
It's
reimbursed
just
for that.
on Saturday.
I thought you meant you back.
You must have August then.
I have August.
Okay. I thought they were all 2 packets for.
Biblioteca. It's page in the upper right-hand corner, 25. It's a hefty little number. 15,000. Is that a software?
Library. Looks like the outlay. Can't go look up.
Yeah, because it says Biblioteca ITG LLC, so what the heck? 15,680.
Says Smart Serve 270 hybrid. I'm wondering if that's one of those self-check machines.
Okay. Do you have August?
I have September.
I think it was August. No, yeah, that was a bit of money. That was almost 15.7.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming it's some major piece of equipment or.
Yeah, it says self checkout.
Oh my gosh, the salt company, we've definitely purchased some salt.
Getting ready for the
Yeah,
that time of
so
year.
I reject your reality. Substitute my home. Man, Waterworks and Lighting, 35,000. You know what that was for? Page 9 of September.
I'm guessing it's probably what we pay them to collect our
That's what
sewer
I
fees. I
just
just wanna
wanted
verify
to,
it.
yeah, and then on the next page, there's another one for 28, for 13.
Or it could just be the monthly bills too
Okay,
for electric.
gotcha.
Yeah, the 28,000 is for what we pay to charge the wastewater
Okay.
sewer utility for collection and billing and collection of the sewer usage.
What's the page 30?
September?
The Audrey Bonnie Diamond Tours, 28,911 Branson trip.
That is the Lowell Center programming budget,
Okay.
so that's one of their trips where, and then the people reimburse them.
And we are getting reimbursed, right? You're
Yeah.
sure of that?
Yep.
Okay. No, that's a dumb question.
Cause you'll see right above it, it's like this, you refund Branson trip for the person.
Oh, yeah.
625, so.
Refund, okay.
Hello.
Just so you know, Chad did not just prank call you.
I got the voicemail on the way over while I was speeding past the police. Bring the budget, but I should probably go grab that.
Yeah,
Did
you
you
can,
like
we're
that?
gonna, we're gonna,
I'm
we
seeing the
switched
bills.
things up
I'm
to do
running
the bills
back from
first and
mid-state.
then we
Okay.
figured we'd move to
Perfect.
the
Perfect.
budget.
Just want
Grab
my
that
copy
stuff
or-
and, that'll work, yeah. We got some time.
I got it.
Use the restroom. Chance to do that yet.
Right. Ouch, ouch. UW Madison, that's weird, what would that be for? It's not much, it's only $95, I'm just curious what we're paying UW Madison for.
Which,
Page 37.
Okay.
Check number 52694.
library, it's a miscellaneous account.
Oh, that's what it is, okay.
Well, there's some.
I don't think it's Badger tickets, that wouldn't be enough.
No, probably not. Are we live?
No, but we are being taped.
Oh, we take.
He's looking up the bills. So did the teleconference go well? I assume it did.
Yeah, that was good. They had a good representation from their board and a member from Grand Rapids, so was also here.
Awesome, excellent. Yeah, I wish I could name it. Suspended training.
They obviously got some microfilm from the university.
Why?
This says the Appleton Daily Post microfilm for November 5th, 1900. So it's probably some historical type document that they got on
Okay.
microfilm.
All right. So that leads me to a question that goes to the budget. Maybe remind me, there must be a line item then, or is this a slush fund when they're putting up these displays and these almost museum type memorabilia?
Oh, at the library?
Yeah,
Depends. I mean, they have the endowment, they have our budget, so
okay.
I'm
I mean,
not
it's
quite
only
sure. We
$95. It just
Yeah.
struck me as a little odd. Hey, Uncle Ozzy. Hey. Ozzy's the mascot for the Nashville Sounds. It's for you.
a lot of expense reimbursement here.
Yeah, I had two big ones. Tim, are we, I'm seeing all the ones that come to me. Are there still expense forms that are going past me for reimbursement? Expense reimbursement, I know we had some that were still being brought to you, or brought to finance directly.
Yeah, I told Nancy that
Don't pay them
in
until they
any
come to
department
us.
head should have your signature on it. And then obviously then we also have been having some issues with just coming up from departments for employees without an approval signature. So I said,
Oh, okay.
I said, do not approve anything without
Yeah, right.
some type of signature, and department head should be bringing them to you. So.
Perfect.
Okay, I think it's fine. I'll make a motion to approve the bills.
And I'll second that. I guess in favor, aye.
Aye.
Great, so we'll pay the bills, that's always a good thing. So then going back up the agenda to the 2014 executive budget, and I think if we could start with just a report out from the mayor regarding his staff meeting yesterday, I think that would be helpful.
Sure, staff meeting went well. They all heard, just like you heard on Monday night, the initiatives and approaches piece that we talked about the other night. Some staff, obviously everyone had some feedback following that meeting and all heard it, many of them for the first time. So that piece occurred. The second piece was the following that step. Well, we also talked about, we introduced an overview of the budget, the cost drivers, just like you all got, to make them more aware and maybe a little bit more just kind of intimate knowledge that it isn't just the cost drivers. So there's reason for denial of expenditure requests and all sort of thing.
Right.
So following that meeting, we had a subset of police, fire, wastewater, streets, engineering, and library. Am I forgetting anyone, Tim? Those 6 stayed back for a half hour, talked about the assumptions that we had made to get us down to the $40,000 gap that we were experiencing. And following that meeting, and Tim and I haven't been able to connect since yesterday afternoon on additional items, but my understanding yesterday at the end of the day is we closed the gap based on what library was able to come up with. And I don't know, maybe you want to fill me in and then the committee on any of the other items that were struck in between that meeting and this morning.
I kind of just did some updates to some of the budgets that changed. I'll start with mass transit. You can insert that in here. Just based on a change in the operating expenses for the mass transit contract, and which affected the aides, but then that also dropped the amount of the local share that was previously at, I think it was around $52,000 down to $38,789. I think what was the operating?
So we went from, okay.
The 52,
Right.
yeah, down to the 38,769. So that was a decrease in the 2014 budget if you look at
Right.
local
Yep,
share.
yep.
So that was the
So we dropped that 52 back down to
the
38.
38,789.
So it actually comes, just decrease, okay.
Right. So we were able to decrease the levy by that amount.
Okay.
Other changes in the library, with discussions at the meeting with Ron McCabe. They had budgeted approximately $8,400 for a telephone system upgrade, and they took that out. And the plan with that is that in 2014, the city's Centrix, I believe it is, contract with the Solaris will be expiring, and we'll be looking at upgrading our phone system. And then we kind of figured it's like, well, as part of an upgrade, we would also incorporate the library into there, and that would probably be a 2015 budget item. So we took that, removed that from the budget, so that reduced that.
Okay, I'm sorry, I was.
It's an outlay item, 8,500, 8,600.
Yeah.
The back of their budget, right there towards the end of their budget.
Okay, gotcha.
On the bottom, page 53, telephone system upgrade. 53.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The other 53.
Well, I have 52 and 54, or maybe 53 is on the back.
Yep.
Okay, now, because this was not matching up with this, I was totally confused.
It's double-sided,
Gotcha.
so at the
Save
bottom
money.
there. So
Okay. So what was the plan? What is something Citrix, something?
our currently we have a contract with Solaris for Centrix, I do
Oh,
believe it's
Centrix, not
yeah.
Citrix. The Citrix, I'm thinking.
Centrix,
I go to
you got
me.
it.
phone system, which is kind of an outdated phone system. That will be coming due into sometime in 2014, and the plan at that time is to look and upgrade the phone system.
And put it out.
Right, go through, well, and part of that
The
hire
the
that
proper
director, make
process that we
right.
haven't like
So having
done
somebody
in the
that
past.
In the
Right.
same conversation, in the same vein of software packages, having that
Mhm.
director of innovation technology, really
Because-
saying that same approach for.
Okay. And I'm not
the
saying, I'm
system.
happy
Yep.
with where
Right,
we
but
are,
we have
that's,
to approach
but if
that.
we don't,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's public monies, and I think we have
Absolutely.
to be honest, and I
Mhm.
appreciate
And
the
if
fact,
we have
that's,
the
I guess this
capacity,
is where I was.
if we have the capacity in-house, and that was a conversation we had with
Okay.
Ron, between library and here, we'll have the staff, and Water and Light did their own system years ago, that they should, I mean, between all of us, we should be able to do that ourselves, and not have to necessarily go to have someone else put it in for us.
All right, well, now that
What
I
else did you get from department heads since then?
understood.
I haven't heard from
Nobody.
pretty much just
Okay.
the,
Tell
the
us,
library, then the mass transit, and then the other change was with your meeting with the DOT.
Yes, so we met with the DOT as well yesterday morning on an unrelated project, but, well, I guess it is part of the project for Second Avenue. There's been some talk about, well, need to do something with the speed limit there, but the real issue about dealing with the traffic coming
Should
off
not
of the
be traffic
expressway.
speed
Right,
limit.
and we were reminded of that again
And I would
yesterday.
remind you of my vote on that.
And we're gonna probably wanna bring that back. But this item here was not gonna happen in 2014. It was budgeted for 14 in engineering. So we reallocated the aesthetic improvements to the roundabout and the scenic overlook area related to that courthouse, Market Street, First Street intersection. So that was changed in there.
Okay, this looks like it went up though.
It did go up, but we applied some fund balance that's currently in the Public Works Construction Fund. I don't anticipate the estimate that came in, as it had a lot of contingency in it, and so we'll be watching that, so we felt comfortable
Trying to
applying the fund balance that will be
Come
able
up
to
with
come
40,000 and we add almost 30.
in.
Ooh, I'm
So-
not a great mathematician, I've never claimed to be, but that one.
And then we also, on the traffic control, there was some decorative signage for Second and Third Street for $16,000 that removed the budget because that's on the schedule for STP
17,
Urban
whatever,
and for-
urban.
to reconstruct
Okay.
East Grand Avenue, and at that time we'll.
It was 4 stop sign poles and they were 4,000 apiece at 16,000, so he said, no, let's do that when we reconstruct it. So we pulled that out of there as well.
So that was 16,000. So between all those changes and things that were right at to where we need to be for our tax levy, based on the 2013 levy plus what our net new construction of $24,000.
And you and I have not been able to connect since Jim and I met today. They are going to commit to the third of the GIS
Okay.
position. None of this tracking hours and billing each
Okay,
other,
good.
at least for the first year. Second thing is he was gonna do what he could to assure me that Clavine and the water main, and this is unrelated, I guess, but it's
But that's, no,
relevant.
it's all, yeah.
The water main piece on Oak, third and fourth, is gonna happen
Okay.
as well. I think those are the only two we were hanging up on. I have to look at my calendar invite. Yeah, so those are those two financial related items. We had enough spirited discussion about some of the other items too that you and I spoke about. We can connect on, but those are the budget related ones. That those
Okay.
water main items will happen.
That's good, yeah. And I'd sent over the updated budget to them and things like that, so.
I did reiterate our frustration and issues with the workman's compensation piece. Again, our hands are tied. And then the sewer utility billing, knowing that we're still gonna have some ongoing calculation stuff on that as well, but just expressing our dissatisfaction and communication and planning and all those sorts of things that put strain on us.
Okay, so, anything else from the staff meeting, or department head meetings, excuse me?
We're continuing to work with, I guess we had some discussions with Jim Neitzel
Oh.
about continuing to address the operating deficit in the wastewater treatment plant. We look like that the cutaway van that's budgeted for $47,000 an outlay, that we're gonna defer that, so that you'll probably see that coming out of that budget,
All
which
right.
should leave us a.
So we've balanced in
Yes.
essence.
The levy, yeah.
For the, anything with the property tax levy, it's balanced.
But we still have more work to do on the other ones, and there's a couple of other moving parts with that too. We've got an email from Jim today, he's talking to the vendor on the polymer issue, and maybe have some cost reductions there. The van you mentioned, you removed the televising, that was already done
Yep.
before this meeting. And then there's another potential user that could be fairly significant, that is a moving target, but obviously something that, just for purposes of the conversation, it's important to keep that in the back of our minds too. have another user coming at some point online for wastewater. And then also related to the issues of the VFA issue at the plant, that's another issue that I had an update on last night, that we might have some more movement, provided that we continue to put the pressure on the right management staff to do the due diligence, that we're dealing with the cost that's coming from that filamentous issue. So again, a couple of pieces, but revenue and expense side of things that we're addressing.
So we need to determine, and I heard from the committee, we all heard from the committee at our last meeting, just a couple days ago, how we wanted to move forward. I guess I just want to express one thought that I had when I reflected on the committee's recommendation, which was to do exactly what we did last year, and the year before. Not to the extent we did it many years ago, but that is to bring in the top money departments, if you will, and schedule them for certain evenings. I don't mind doing that, but I just want to make sure that that's going to be meaningful. In other words, I don't want to bring in Chief Hoyer and then just sit here and say, well, and actually his budget's down. So I'm a little concerned. I'm wondering, now that you've had a chance to look at the budget, if there are departments that we don't necessarily need, or that when we go through their budget, if we have concerns, we ask them to come to the following meeting. Just, you know, I hate to make a big production if we don't have anything.
And that was the one piece following the staff meeting that we didn't, that you asked, what else was the staff meeting?
Well, that's what I was waiting for.
Yeah, so I proposed to them, because they kind of looked deer in the headlights again, well, what do they want?
Well, we do it every year, so I mean, they know.
And that was, they
they've been through
understood
it.
that as the exercise, but I think if there's specific questions, or if you know more
So
structure.
here's what I'm wondering,
we
if
can
it would
issue.
make more sense, is if we start going through and then we collect the questions that we have,
Mhm.
we give the department heads those questions, and then we bring them all together
Sure.
for a meeting where we get the questions answered from them directly. Would that work for you? That way we can go through, otherwise,
Time to wait.
you know, otherwise I feel like we go through it and then we're just shooting questions at them. They're jotting down. Meanwhile, we're moving on to another department. I think we get all of our questions answered, but I'm not really sure. So what would be helpful, Tim, is if you would keep track of which budget question we have for which
Mhm.
department, and then get that to the department head, and then we'll hold a meeting where we just go through all of those questions and see, and then maybe we have to change strategies if we have a department where there's just so many questions, we say, you know what, this is gonna be an entire meeting. But until we know that, I feel like, why schedule an entire night for police when, you know, I really went through their budget, and now that the answers are in the budget itself, a lot of them, I don't know that we need to do that. So I don't know that Andrew would be happy with that, but you're nodding and I'm nodding, so we'd outweigh him.
I need time myself too.
Yeah, exactly, and I've only been through it a couple times, and once really quickly, and then the second time just because anything that I flagged and had questions on. I know Andrew already has a couple questions, one had to do, I don't wanna shock anyone, but one had to do with the Christmas lights. And one had to do with the executive assistant budget, something, but I don't know exactly what his questions were. He just asked what was going on tonight, so we know that we have a couple questions from Andrew already. So I guess my first exercise was really just to look at, and I'm on page, starting on page 1, really. Just to look at the increases and decreases, which, you know, like I said, gives me just an idea of, and then somewhere in here, why didn't I mark it? Maybe I did. There was the percentage change. Do you know what page that's on?
Oh, that was in the, before the departmental, I think, towards the middle.
The departmental starts on page what? So, wait.
Yeah.
Oh, it is, you're right, because I folded it over and that's how I knew I'd have it.
21, Chad, if you're looking for.
So it would be page 1, but page one
Of the departmental
of the
budget.
departmental, so if you hit page
21,
20,
yeah.
then flip it over and you'll see. And so really, when I went through this and I had questions of the budget summary, and then I saw the percentages, it was almost easier for me to look at some of the percentages and say, what the heck happened? Because that really tells me, okay, we went way down here, but why are we up here? Would that make sense, Chad, if we just, at least for tonight, we can just ask the basic questions of the percentages?
I haven't had a lot of time to
That's okay.
skim, so I don't.
Well, this, I think at least we can ask those basic questions. You don't even have to skim. I mean,
What are the
you look at
anomalies,
city
right?
property operating and it's up 145%. So that's a question. Wow.
Okay, that's where, in the fire department, they have an issue with their retaining wall on the side of station number 1. And they initially had put a budget request in for $17,250 for a contractor to come in and actually repair those retaining walls. Well, kind of through some internal discussions, we're like, well, wouldn't it be easier just to, think about just removing that whole berm, that earthen berm there, as opposed to fixing the retaining wall, just level that, be easier to mow.
How's that gonna look for the, what's behind that?
Well, yeah, we'd have to do some restoration, obviously, of the building. They're thinking,
Because that's right on the express. That's
yeah,
gonna look
doing
pretty
some
bad.
stucco and doing it, making it look nice.
Okay.
Yeah, obviously, there's
Just
gonna
so
be some repair there, and then also the benefit of we'd be able to use our own crews. So the actual labor and equipment for the city crews to do that was put into the city property outlay or city property operating account and removed from the fire department outlay
Okay.
account.
Okay, and I did see that their outlay went down, so that
Right.
makes sense.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, gotcha. So really, it's a plus, it's not even just a wash, it's a,
Yeah,
It's to the good, right, because it
that's
wasn't,
what I'm saying,
yeah,
okay.
right.
Well, these are the things, and these
Mhm.
may seem like, they're coming out of left field, but this is, I don't know how else to do.
I think maybe just bears noting on the city
Mhm.
property, a conversation we're having internally that hasn't been completely defined yet, and that is just our general approach to the way we manage buildings and grounds of all of our city buildings, fire departments, Centralia, library, city hall, et cetera. We'll have more of that as the budget unfolds, but it isn't necessarily related to expenditures, it's just more of how do we manage those dollars and manage the property? So just want to make you aware
Well,
that that
and
conversation
I'm going to say, I had no idea this had to do with the retaining wall at the fire department, but I can tell you, and I would encourage anyone to start taking a couple tours of our outbuildings, the fire department, they're falling apart.
Mhm.
And I don't think we can keep putting Band-Aids on them for a whole lot longer either.
Yeah, and that way we get a better handle, somebody that's managing all of the buildings.
I'm
yeah.
thrilled with that idea. I think you and I have talked about that
Otherwise
during
you
one
have
of our
these
meetings.
little requests and things that just come up to the
And
top.
you don't know. But I
Yeah.
mean, fortunately, we have some handy individuals who work for us who have been able to, spruce up the bathroom or, do
Yeah,
some.
using the labor that or the
You know,
expertise, yeah.
Yeah, we've been fortunate, but I'm just saying. And I think that's a great idea. We use our own staff to do something like the retaining wall, our leveling that berm, but we just need to remember it is alongside of the expressway and it needs to look decent when we're done. I'm sure it will. Elections makes perfect sense because we know that we have
that
that.
usually fluctuates from year to year,
Yeah.
2 to 4 elections.
I was confused and I noticed it in the actual budget, but emergency management,
Okay.
what's the 9% up for that?
Basically, what we're doing here is that this used to be the old civil defense budget, which accounted for our auxiliary police and basically our emergency sirens and maintenance
Yep.
of. And we've kind of expanded that into the emergency management / communications. And so what this is going to incorporate is that in the outlay, there's a proposed communications tower. So the operating account now accounts for some of the maintenance on the equipment, the repeaters and things like that. Also in there's some training for our EOC type thing, our operation and such, and then also it still has the auxiliary police in there and the warning siren maintenance.
And for the people watching at home who aren't actually looking at this document, although I would encourage anyone who can to certainly obtain a copy or pull it up on from our website. when I say 9%, it's really only a $1,000 increase. It's just when I see that percentage, I'm curious why. In engineering, I had some questions when I looked at their actual budget, but we have operating going up there too. 6.6%, and that's actually 23,000. Do we know why? Oh, I know that I had made some marks in the engineering one.
A lot of that has to do with, now they're part of the cost
Incidental
system.
labor,
Right, so they're allocating their labor based on their anticipated activities throughout the year. So a lot of times these maintenance accounts and the people in the cost system, depending on how many construction projects, because all their people just don't charge the engineering, they charge the projects, they charge some of the maintenance accounts. And so these tend to fluctuate from year to year. That's why every year I kind of look at the cost system labor, that being the street, parks, engineering, wastewater, and I look at the estimated wages for those and make sure that, you know, we're appropriately budgeted throughout the document so that all the labor is accounted for and that we're not over budgeting for our labor. But you will see fluctuations from one budget year to the next based on what their anticipated activities. Also factoring into this is their first go round at the activity base and trying to estimate what their activities are going to be for next year. And also in there, 9,000 of that was for special surveying.
I saw that.
They're going to be doing some
And
assessor
that
plats.
we knew.
Excuse me.
And training took a bit of a lead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's with the three engineers and having to maintain their continuing education.
That's what it says.
Whereas
Okay.
before we only had two, now we have three.
Okay, so the fire department decrease in outlay makes sense now. IT, that's 186%, but is that basically because of the position you're discussing?
Position, there's some additional other, let me go to that budget, so
But
we
it's-
move the website out.
It's the director of innovation and technology that's in there. Also, that we moved into that budget the GIS
Oh, that's
specialist.
right.
Oh,
That was-
Before that was in the engineering or the, and so now we've moved it into there so that theory be that GIS specialist would report to the director of innovation and technology. So as you can see, is in 2013 budget, we had 0 wages because we contracted out our
right.
help desk function, and now we have 118
18,
for those
okay.
two positions.
It's interesting how you mentioned before the percentages are misleading when you start looking at how small
Well,
the
they
budgets
are,
could
when
be.
you-
Yeah.
when you're talking,
You say that, yeah.
9% for,
Yeah.
$1,000, but this is, and so the outlay increase would be then to the 35.6% increase, an outlay for information tech would then be to cover the ongoing
The asset management,
expectation,
the
right?
cartograph
Right,
that we have,
Street department.
rest of phase 1 to implement and pay for, and then
right,
phase 2
okay.
project for that.
All right, confused. Inspection services are going down?
Yeah, whereas in the 2013 budget, we had 2 full-time inspectors,
I see, okay,
and so this year we have 1.5, and we're contracting out the electrical.
okay.
Finally, the dust has settled there, at least for now.
Lowell Center, and that's 12.5, that's almost $21,000.
That's just someone just opted into the insurance.
Okay,
That's driving that.
great, right, see? You're
Isn't that
answering
amazing?
almost all my
It's like-
questions, right?
The one minor change, and it's
Well, then that's fine. All right, thank you.
mass
I don't
transit
even
budget.
ever want to talk about mass transit again. I think I will have to.
Which I have a response to that email that was sent off about cab service, just so you're aware, we've got it all taken care of,
Okay,
I
good.
think, so we don't have to have a meeting on that.
All right, and then Zach, your budget up 16.6.
Yours truly. So the 16 or 15,000 of that is wages and benefits.
Mhm.
So then 6,000 of that would be mayor's councils and training and education, increase and dues and subscriptions. So better defining, and before, we've been in and out of some of these groups, and I budgeted for the ones that I think make the most sense for us in terms of participation, but it's only a $6,000 increase when you pull out the wages and benefits.
Right, and the wages and benefits is just, it's just a reallocation of labor. It's not an increase in staffing or anything like that.
Oh,
It's just,
so that was probably Andrew's. I was wondering what
Yeah,
Andrew's question was.
that's what it is.
What is
Okay.
it? What is the question?
it's just the executive coordinator. It's just redistribution of his time.
It was billed to suit to attorney.
It was 20% attorney, 30% HR, and 50%
So that's
mayor,
probably
and now it's just
confusion.
75 mayor,
All
25
right.
HR.
Well,
so-
at the next meeting,
I wonder if that's
we'll
Andrew's
let
question.
I'm guessing it is.
Andrew ask the questions that he has. That's how we'll start off, so
That's
that
what
he
it is.
feels that, he can catch up.
You're
I saw that in Sue's, and I was wondering where that
Mhm.
makes sense to me. That's fine.
So, do not take this the wrong way,
Mm-hmm.
but as far as community promotion,
Yes.
I think it, when you're at 8,000 and I think you're a good promoter for our city,
Mm-hmm.
honestly, I really do.
Thank you.
And I follow, your stuff on the Twitter and the,
Mhm.
and the
Very
Facebook,
transparent, as transparent
which I
as can be,
appreciate.
yeah.
So I know that you're out there promoting us, but I think it would be helpful. Well, let's just put it this way. In my world, if somebody goes to a conference, and certainly if they're flying around the country going to conferences, the
Mhm.
expectation is there's a report
Sure.
that
Absolutely.
accompanies that back. How did that benefit the Department of Corrections, state of Wisconsin? How is that making offenders' lives better? How is that making staff life improve?
Mhm.
So, none of these are huge ticket items per se, other than the 11.9, but it looks like you're gonna pay for that with something from this here
Right.
again.
Yeah, and there's no travel that I'm asking for reimbursement or anything on in that case. Back to
Oh, okay.
let's move back to the community promotion, because I think every department has a little bit different expectation, and I maybe hold them to a different standard. So, for example, planning, Adam, when he travels to a conference related to planning, he does provide a written and an oral report back to me.
Which
So,
I think is helpful. It just,
yeah,
it
so I think maybe
it
we should just. I
validates.
think that's fair. So maybe just a written report.
That would be great. Here's the context that we're making. Otherwise, I'll be on it. And I know we've had these conversations laughing when everybody was at a county's convention, or people are gone, and then, we show up, oh, they're all off, playing at the water park, I think was the joke. And we know that's not true, but we don't get to see, what you hear,
Sure.
what you get to talk to the other folks
Right.
about.
Right. What's the value?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and I
think
know
that's
there
fair.
is.
Mhm.
I get it. I know there's value. And I actually don't think this is exorbitant in any way.
Sure. Right.
But it would be helpful to say, here's the things. And I know, because I can see as you're
But not everybody
meeting with
sees that.
Zappos, or
Yeah.
you're meeting with it, and
Right.
if they don't have you
Not
on.
everybody has that. So another piece on that community promotion thing, and I know that was kind of Lee's piece last year, but there are a couple of things that council members, I think, should have the opportunity to attend. And if the dollars aren't there, they're not going to be, the priority is never there. So,
Right.
the league has a couple of events throughout the year that are typically close. I mean, this one is in Green Bay next week. That I know some cities send their whole council
You're
to,
right. No,
but
we
especially when you
should
get new
go.
council members, I
Yeah.
think some sort of
Well, I went my first couple of years. I went to, when they had them in the Wausau area,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
Appleton.
they all
Certainly
float
the
around.
new,
Exactly.
the new Alder training, which actually I found very beneficial.
But I think once you've got a couple of new council members, when they meet other new council members, there's some value in just,
Oh, absolutely.
you all know, it's,
Absolutely.
especially when you're starting out, it's.
And that's, sometimes it really isn't the class itself, it's that opportunity to make those connections afterwards, and that's fair to say.
So I don't know, but maybe we'll put our heads together on it'll be peanuts, but again, it's.
Well, it's nothing
valuable.
fancy, but just, I think it would be great for people to know what we, and specifically you, are doing to promote the city. I think
Well,
that
there's
would be-
two, the National League of
That's a great
Cities.
opportunity
Yeah.
for us.
Right, for everyone, right?
Right.
National League of Cities and the State League, if we're paying dues to these things, maximize our value, and otherwise,
Right.
why do we belong? And I think that's the question. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, in the council budget, we always historically put $500 in there for the league conference.
Oh, do we? Okay.
Mhm.
So if someone wanted to attend, they,
I should send an email.
Your car allowance, is that for when you travel or is that for around town?
That's been in there, Tim. That's anything non-city related, from what I understood. That's been in there. The car. Chad was asking about the car allowance.
I think that was to. I think that's just, yeah,
So if you can't
It's
get a
just-
city car, you get so much per mile, right?
Right, and I,
right,
That's what I.
yeah,
other than taking the engineering ban, that would be the only.
right. It's just, yeah, before it was kind of like, it was just an allowance paid to the mayor just to,
Oh, so you just get it in a lump?
well, it depends.
Or
I think
do
we
you put
changed
it
that.
in
We
on a
used to submit
travel
actual
voucher?
mileage.
I
It
do
used to be
submit
where the mayor
mileage.
just got it
Yeah.
as a lump sum.
And now
and
it's the
just-
travel
Last year I
voucher type
submitted
thing.
mileage.
And now he tracks his mileage and
So what is was the actual this year? Do we know?
for this year.
Well, actual 2012, well, we wouldn't know
Yeah.
that.
So I bill, so for example, if I'm heading to Wausau for a league event, I bill community promotion for that because it's related to that.
Sure.
It's outside
Okay,
city.
that makes sense.
The 1800 was intended to be in inner city,
Yeah, just kind of around, yeah.
Okay,
mid-state to city hall. I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna track that. I can track it by calendar. I just don't track it on a rolling basis.
oh, heavy sigh, Macmillan Library. Although really they're not, it was only 2.1 on operating, and outlay went down. How did outlay go down?
That's where we pulled the 80,
Okay,
Yep.
84, 55.
okay, is that what you did? That's
The
what you just told me?
telephones.
Okay, the phones, all right, you just told me that, see, sure.
And I think Ron was expressing that they had an estate that kind of left some funds for actual building improvements that they're
Although this page
utilizing
didn't
that.
change, so this page is the same as before you pulled that, so it was already down 37%, it must be down more now.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah, right. Yeah, and the estate was 100,000 and you know, drop in the bucket for, I guess, kind of their improvements, but it would certainly help afford a lot of the
Stem some,
significant capital investments like elevator repairs and.
municipal court, I'm assuming.
One real
it's
quickly in the
still-
library too, that I think is important. So the county, I learned something, and I don't know how if council members knew this or not, but Ron had told me that the county calculation is always a year lag based on their distribution. And it sounds like they're asking for, is it they 77% they ask now? Is a percentage, and it's going up. So there's going to be about 500,000 that Ron figured for the following budget year. So it's always a year lag. That was valuable to me, knowing that if they've got some significant capital expenditures, that the levy, our city
Right.
levy, is not being expected to pay
Right.
for it. So that was good information, really, to the good types of calculations.
Well, and it's a wonderful library, don't get me wrong, it
Yeah.
just seems when we're approving bills, that one gets to be a little.
That's a big department.
It really is.
1.6 million. That's a lot of-
Municipal court, I'm just assuming that's basic cost of living.
Yep.
So, and ordinance control, now that makes sense, right? So 352% increase, but we're talking another,
We're going to a full-time
Full-time
ordinance officer.
We're hoping.
So we did bring that up. We talked to Beth about kind of how that debate, you know, that referral is going to happen
Right.
and all that sort of thing. So I guess that speaks to the new hires and the reporting structure for specifically for the ordinance control. How do we want to handle that? She asked me. I didn't really have a strong opinion how we're going to handle those job descriptions, hires. You know, is it a joint finance HR because it's a similar conversation? What do you think, Tim, on that?
As far as the reporting structure?
She asked me
Yeah.
today, we haven't been able to close the loop on it between the two of us, but reporting structure, new hires, job descriptions, how we wanna.
Oh, as far as the new
Everything,
positions
yeah.
and things
What are
like
the
that?
steps and
Position
what
description.
committees are gonna decide and, yeah.
Well, I mean, I think maybe what we could do is one of these finance meetings we could have as a joint HR and we could look at the new positions
that
and
would be
kind of.
helpful.
And
Because
so
we
then,
also have
so then we can approve,
Chief
you know, that,
Lawyer's thing
All right,
written out there, so we would have a couple items we could put.
I'm good with the joint. I think
I
that it's
think
gonna be the
that's way to do
cleanest.
it. Yep,
I don't like to have these conversations multiple times, and if you've got
I
committee
don't
members
either.
that are
Yep.
joint committees, why should
And
they
we
have to
do, we have
serve?
Chad, who's our swing guy.
Yeah, pop into two and, okay, that's good. We'll see how that works and could be a long joint, might have to have
Well,
two
and I think
joints.
that's important because I think there are individuals who have strong feelings on who that person should report to. What is the percentage of their
I haven't
time,
been
how do
here-
we get?
I haven't been here very long, so Beth today gave me a little insight of why it was taken away from
Yes.
police department.
Well, and I was, and I
And I
know why
don't-
it was, yeah,
And I would like to be
Yep.
caught up to speed,
Yeah,
I agree.
because what I'm thinking in my head when I see and talk to other communities, why can't we do that? And they said it didn't work.
We
Why
tried it,
didn't it
and-
work?
exactly, that's what we need to get to. And then I think there has to be an expectation of people held accountable regardless of where the positions sit.
well, we talked about that today too, Nick and I, about expectations, just so that we're, great, you're gonna create this position, or they're gonna do this, we still need to really define the expectations, and I think that's gonna help the committees be able to
Yes.
have a better conversation. The other thing I would say is if, instead of trying to jam it into one joint meeting would be, particularly issues like that, I think there's a pressure all the time on HR maybe in general that they have to decide that night, and then they get themselves in a decision that maybe they don't wanna live with.
Yeah, when they reflect on it, I will bet they've
Yeah,
done
so maybe just keep, I propose that to the committees.
that. Remember when we got rid of, what did finance do in the budget, gave all the money to the Parks Department or something?
They wanted to, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, I had a
that was-
motion
that
and a
was-
second,
that
I was
I heard
the,
about that, that was way before
Oh.
me, that's right.
and I remember saying, no, we have to reopen this, because again, it was the heat of the moment, and, yeah,
It was Dennis, wasn't it?
I think it might have been Dennis.
Well, maybe,
So it's just an example that
That's
popped
funny.
into my head when you
Yeah.
said that.
maybe what we could do is, on that one for the 30th that we have, we could have that as a joint.
Sure.
And then maybe for then that November regularly scheduled finance, when the HR would occur, then we could have another joint. So maybe like the 30th could be with the discussion and kind of the, maybe.
That, I'm out on the 30th.
Perfect, we'll have it on the 30th.
That's a committee position, not on the city's dime.
Well, it's really
We'll
just
have it
gonna
on the
be
30th.
discussions, so
Okay,
we
that's
should
cool.
be able to.
Well, I mean,
I'm just gonna throw it out there.
well, I mean, we can have it at. I mean,
What about you have meetings the 21st and the 23rd?
Yes.
And
Yep.
did we have meetings with departments scheduled on that night yet? Or-
Well, again, I don't know that we're going to do that.
Okay.
We
All
could do
right.
the 23rd,
20, okay. I'm just gonna throw it out there.
the 23rd for the joint, let's
Yeah.
do it, that's fine. Okay. I hate to just have joint written on my calendar.
And I said two joints, and it's really two joint meetings.
Alrighty,
You'll need
One
to
of
after
those
that.
days.
that's what that was my point. So going down Park Department.
Oh, my department, perfect.
So
Alright,
meet-
Chad, how much time you got?
Mead
Just kidding.
Field, what's the up with that?
This is our first stab at activity based in some of these areas, so.
Okay, so,
Right.
so we're just
That's
really
fine.
not sure.
And then the majority of the half the increase is attributed to utilities. Tracking higher. That budget increase from 18.2 to 19,700, and when you look at the actual for 2012 was 19,146.
So which one, I'm sorry,
Mead Field utilities went up 1,500.
okay.
So,
Okay,
35,514 Christmas decorations,
which page are you on?
page 3.
He's on the index. Mm-hmm.
Where do we ever see, is that just repairs?
That's
Because
majority of that is labor to put up the
Yeah.
put up and take down.
That's just labor?
The majority of it's
Okay. Then that's just like tree care. You have $122,000 he has to work with. So when he goes out and plants 5 trees, then all the labor, the trucks,
Oh, I see
everything's
what
billed
you're
to
saying.
that line item
Just
Mhm.
out of that to work with. as of right now, today's date, can you tell me what he has left in that tree care account?
And the other one, Chad, too, not to move you off that, but there's also, and this would be another one maybe while he's looking, is brush and weed control in streets. It's kind of a similar budget. You know, you're talking brush cutting, there's a brush cutting item in there. It'd be just nice to know where that account's at. Because
But he still has, we're still moving forth with what our wishes were 2 years ago now
so
with trees.
budget includes funds to plant 25 new trees in the downtown area, so $4,000.
So nothing was budgeted out in your medians out on
It's not tree
Highway
care.
13?
It's not tree care.
No, but what I'm asking, did you
So
budget
Jim
anything?
was directed to put together a cost on that, and it would just use the labor that's allocated to one of these maintenance accounts for that. So you wouldn't see it in here because
Okay,
it's a
so, I mean, I'm
maintenance
just
activity.
asking you.
Yep.
Is he doing something for
When
2014?
he gets back from being out today and tomorrow, next week he's gonna have something for us.
Okay,
which
because I
would
know
be-
that was one of your wishes, you said to clean up that and to put a couple more where they are knocked out
Yeah,
along the expressway.
right, that didn't get done this year, exactly, yep. And we still have that CN grant out there that we have not heard back on too. That was still out there.
Answer your question, about $20,000 remaining in the tree care account as of September.
And what was the total budget? I should be able to look it up.
2013 is
121,593.
Okay,
Where do you see that? Shows 120.36 here.
it might have been carryover.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Was that 20,000 in wages or just that budget?
The budget, total budget remaining.
So when he needs to hire somebody for removal of stumps, that's all? Or storm comes through and he's picking up branches in the park, that all comes out of
If,
that?
yeah, if they're trimming up some, yep,
Or they take the
Mhm.
boom truck out?
yes.
Did any of the airport stuff get misquoted in there yet? Do you know of? I don't know if they put anything through. So we want to make sure that gets built to the airport, we're not having to. Okay, good. We'll be addressing that tomorrow at airport commission if you want to be there for another meeting.
You know my feeling on that. I don't know why you laugh and chuckle. There's a lot of citizens in this town that feel like that.
So planning and economic development. Wages.
That's the,
Creation of the community development specialist, okay,
Mhm.
that's what I found. Okay, so obviously some of those other line items bump up with that.
Correct.
Watch.
And that one has not been evaluated, so it's fair to say it comes down to what do we want to pay them again? You know, I think that number was just a number you had kind of pulled together based on
We just kind of, yeah,
ballpark it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, based on what we end up putting the qualifications, requirements, and, you know, that whole proposal, I can
Well, we're gonna have to be pretty almost spot on. I mean, we don't have a lot of slush wiggle room here in this.
Right, and that's where I think
budget.
when it comes to hiring that, when they DMG
Right.
it and all that, that's our ceiling, really. I
Right.
mean, there's no
Right,
reason
right.
why, to expect that we would go over that.
Okay.
Is that fair to say, Tim? That-
right, and usually a lot of times by the time we actually go through the process, we're well into the year. So-
Well, I was gonna say, the worst case scenario is you hold off the hire.
Right,
Right, yeah,
so-
I mean, yeah.
and then to make up the
Until- right.
difference, exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. And that's there's no way we're gonna have someone January 1 on that anyways.
No,
No.
exactly, so.
Okay.
If it were to be approved.
Police and fire, it's not up much, but I'm just curious as to why at all.
Well, a lot of it had to, if you look at the Wisconsin retirement, you show $112,000 decrease. And what that was is in the WRS rates for both the protective services, there's a disability rate, and it used to be at almost 5%. And based on how that fund is at the state of Wisconsin, it's fully funded. Their expected claims are showing that they need to, that, well, basically the claims and them being fully funded for the first time, they dropped that to like 0.5%. So we saw the rate come down for WRS for protective services, resulting in significant savings. And in this case, to the tune of $112,000 due to disability that was built into that WRS rate.
Okay, are you with the police department or
Right.
police and fire commission?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was just curious why theirs went. And it looks like recruitment and testing, are they planning? Or is that just a placeholder in case?
Well, right now for the testing, we're actually utilizing, I think it's a tech college or whatever, to do that testing for us. and that-
Valley, yeah.
Chippewa Valley.
Okay,
And then so now we'll have to pay them, whereas we used to do that
ourselves.
ourselves.
Gotcha, that was my question. And it's not a huge amount, again, I didn't know what the reason.
Is it covered on our HR right now?
What?
The payment to Chippewa Valley? Or is it just not that we're not paying for it?
I think this, it's, I
Oh,
think
we just
next
haven't
year's,
needed it,
yeah,
right?
I think next year is when they're gonna actually
Right, okay.
do
That's
the
right.
eligibility
That makes
listing
sense.
for
Thank you.
fire department.
Makes sense.
And now I'm with the police department, who overall appear to have gone, what was the outlay that was taken out, 12.1%?
Mobile and portable radios,
Oh.
6,300. Well, no, 6,300 decrease. They requested 35,000. And after conversations that we've had, it's not necessarily a PD or fire exclusive item. It's something that's related to the what do we want to call it? What's the item that the new rename the Department of Emergency Management?
Yeah.
That we've got a 2017 mandate. Our position was the fact that if we're buying radios today for a 2017 mandate, there's a good possibility that we would need to reevaluate the radios we bought today by 2017. So that's an item that we're going to start building a replacement account
Yep.
for. And
There's a new narrow banding requirement in
Right, I
2017.
think I did that.
I'm just gonna butt in here and back up a minute. Go
Yep.
back to tree care. Sorry.
Never left it, did you?
yeah, you should have said, I'm still
Well,
here.
You got your calculator handy. Most of those trees were $190 to $125 a piece, times 25 is what? Figure on the high side, $125
$3,000 plus shipping,
plus $600 for shipping is what?
$36.25
Okay, so he's
or more.
he's
37.
he's rounding up the high to $4,000. Is that what?
I think it's
See
safe.
that right there?
I mean,
Is
we
that-
can get more ordered and get
Yeah,
our
no, but
proposal
I-
out.
So that's where he's coming up with the $4,000, correct? You
I'm
would say?
guessing so. Yeah,
Okay.
125 times 25 is right in there.
All right. Thank you.
Does that wages, Tim? How that $3,333 is allocated? What maintenance? Do you remember any conversations you had with Matt on that?
For which,
You know, it goes back to the issue, we're gonna plant the trees, but are we gonna commit to watering them?
Right.
And so is that, I mean, that isn't a lot of hours, that's like 33 hours at $10 an hour, right?
I don't know, I'm sorry,
330. 300, right,
Yeah.
yeah, so how many weeks would that be?
let's see, I can pull up his activity base and see.
See how he's getting that number.
Speaking of the wages, wasn't summer help supposed to go to 10 and not 9?
HR hasn't made that decision, but
But you just have it in the budget at 9.
I think.
It's in here at 9.
Right.
Okay. Right now it's currently 8, correct?
It can be, it depends on how many years of service they have. You can have them at 950, 9, 850, 8. So if they come back, they usually get like a 50% increase.
Sorry to blurp in here.
Hey, no problem, that's what this process is, it's not pretty.
I'm gonna back up a little bit too. Back to Christmas decorations.
Going the wrong direction.
$35,000 seems like a lot of money for labor to install something on a pole.
Also the ground displays,
That's what Matt talks
putting
about.
those up,
DIY
putting them up,
wires,
taking them down.
Filling sandbags. Just seems like a lot of.
Equipment rates, that's 13,000, right? Or no, equipment's like 4,000. Electricity for that.
Well, that's actually the cost,
Oh, no, that's, you're right.
Water and Light, does do some work for us too.
Mm.
And so with their truck, and just to kind of give some credit to
Purchase
Water
a
and Light,
list for that.
they eat 5,000 of that cost. So if the bill's usually 7,000, they give us a credit of 5,000 every year for Christmas decorations.
How generous. So nice.
Okay, where are we now?
We're on the police department,
Oh,
and my first question would be officers' wages. There's quite a jump, what's the?
The labor contract has a 2% increase
That's
for
what I figured, I just
2014.
wanted to- And you probably have that written down or somewhere, yeah. And then I'm looking at the overtime, but you have that listed for us too. But they always have these requirements, so I still don't see why we're, unless the wages went up, so I guess the overtime has to be reflective of that too. Never mind, answer my question.
We did have a conversation with the chief and the deputy chief on that overtime item, just to, now that they're starting to track the information, it's an evolution. I don't think there's gonna be a point where we're gonna say, yep, what we've got is okay and good enough. So, some talk about an overtime policy and how we derive that item,
We've
so.
had one
that's,
for years and we've been tracking and it's very helpful. Very much
You have,
helps
in
us,
your
yeah,
organization.
in my
you have.
world, yes.
Well, and
So we know what's
And
driving our costs.
how we approach that, if it's a council decision or a police and fire commission or what have you, but that was a conversation we did have. Just want to make that.
I appreciate that. And again, overall, their budget is, it's down, so
how does a person become a police and fire commission member?
we have to get nominated, or actually, I think you
By the mayor,
appoint.
yeah.
All mayor? No voting?
Also,
We
approves it.
approve it,
The last one was Greg Durabic or Joe Nash, were the two that I appointed.
so those are the ones that the mayor appoints, and then it comes to us for final. I mean, if we voted it down, I guess you'd have to find someone
Reappoint,
else.
yeah. The training item was the largest significant overtime expenditure. It's 38,000 for training.
Where are you
That was overtime. I didn't know if we moved on overtime yet, but 72.
So,
And we also struck, the other question was on the outlay item. Gene, we struck the Detective Bureau office equipment at this point. We're anticipating that in 14, we're gonna look at City Hall furniture as an item, and we didn't feel that it was
They kind of buy
appropriate.
a bunch of furniture.
Well.
Yeah, as part of the
Couple years
remodel,
ago.
they got a significant amount of new office furniture in there.
tell them get on surplus.com, start shopping.
Matt can find us something on surplus. Well, and we didn't have a complete understanding of what that was, but it sounded like that was only half of what.
It's about 15,000 as far as the total request, so that's where we're gonna kind of do an inventory of all of City Hall and prioritize it.
Well, and I appreciate that, but again, I'm still gonna advocate for the outbuildings also, because it seems like if you're lucky enough to be located in City Hall, you're pretty well taken care of maintenance-wise, and if you're not, it's kinda like whatever you get.
Well, there's a lot of people with some
leftovers.
old desks.
Oh, there are, I know, and I'm not saying that there aren't, I agree. But
Yeah,
I'm
no,
not
wait.
talking about desks, I'm talking,
Right.
you know,
Well, it's the
The ceiling
priority, and that's
falling
the
in,
conversation we had.
you know?
Desks are a higher priority than, I don't know, what other fixture that they would, and someone would wanna purchase. I mean, there's things that, if you've got desks that weren't built for computers, you know.
absolutely, I mean, it becomes an ergonomic and
Yeah.
a health and safety
Mhm.
issue, actually.
Right.
So no, I'm with you, I'm just advocating again for those
That's fair.
buildings that are not, or those departments that are not a part of City Hall.
So no, they're not buying any squads or anything here?
Well, they have a replacement schedule for that.
Next spot.
1 marked and 2 unmarked.
But it's not, I mean, it's going along with the schedule, right? I think, didn't we, a
Oh,
couple
there
of
it
years
is.
ago, they
I'm sorry, I
had,
was looking.
Right.
a couple of years ago,
Yeah.
we played a shell game with a couple, didn't we?
Yeah, they used to have 4 in the budget, now they have 3.
Okay, that's what I thought. That's not sure. I know that we need to change that up a bit.
It's funny, the high school students at Lincoln today pay very much attention to what we buy in squads. Learned that from these high school
Sure
kids this
they
morning.
do.
The chief and I were there to be there for a career day, and they asked some really important questions about squads and why we don't buy certain brands and how quickly we replace them. And I thought they had more interest
Why do
than
they
I
get
did
to
in,
speed and we
in that
don't,
historically.
and-
It was kind of a funny item that chief and I laughed about.
So property and liability, are you good with police? I mean,
Right.
this is just kind of that first overview. We'll go back through these, but at that point, then I think, by next week,
This is
hopefully,
just fine.
folks will have a little bit,
Go back to
committee
tree
members will be able
You still on
No,
train?
but once,
to see countries.
say what you want, it's just to getting used to the book here.
Oh,
It's a bit different.
absolutely.
It's different, yeah.
So, property and liability, we're down a little bit. That's good.
Employee dishonesty looks like it went up a little bit. Should laugh, but it's, boy, the public officials bond went down. Our pool must have some good public officials.
Yeah.
Not have-
Okay, well, that is what it is. Public Works, so probably not you, Chad, to ask the majority of questions here. I
No,
hate seeing that
here.
sidewalk outlay is down 76%. I mean,
Better allocation.
Well,
right?
but the main reason why that is because 2013 budget had the big Safe Routes to School on Washington in it,
oh, okay.
and then now, so then you see that big decrease, that's why it decreased as much as it did.
This town has a big issue with sidewalk.
Well, you try to get one through and it's like,
Well,
they're gonna burn something on your lawn.
what's the possibilities of making it mandatory that if in the city limits, there's sidewalk in every street?
We have in the budget or in the ordinance that any reconstruction.
Yeah, but I'm talking right now.
I'm with you, do it before April, buddy.
What,
You want your phone to ring? Ooh, baby.
Where are you gonna come up with the dollars, I guess is the question. So, you got people that want train horn or no train horns, and the only way to do that is to
that's
rip up
not,
the
that's not a
intersection.
construction property. That's not,
That's construction. You gotta rip
Yeah,
up all
but
those intersections. You gotta put in
that'll never happen.
crossings.
That'll never happen.
But when you start lining up these priorities, what's on the list?
There's still got kids that are walking on the,
All right, I did the safe routes to school or the walking school
walking on the
bus.
streets to
Yeah.
ODC. I mean,
Well, not only that, but it's also by Mead School, and they're walking. You should do the school bus in your neighborhood.
Grove,
You gotta walk along High Street. That's not safe. There's some spots on High that don't have sidewalk. At least my neighborhood is High. Yeah. I have sidewalks, so I'm not concerned about it. Somebody put a sidewalk in my front yard. I shoveled it. It doesn't bother me. But
historically,
Some-
people who do not have sidewalks when we have attempted to put sidewalks in, they will show up at the meeting, they will say, well, now I have to take out my flower bed, and now I have to take out my bird bath, and now I have to take out my trees, when all along that hasn't been the property, although they have maintained it. I appreciate that sense of ownership. So you need to have a council that's willing to say this is gonna be painful, but we're gonna go ahead and do it, and we've never had a council that's willing to take that.
Rapids has to
Moving
be one of
forward.
the worst cities for
I
sidewalk.
don't disagree,
ending.
that's why I said I'm disappointed.
I was
I'm
in
also
Point
a
for while,
sidewalk.
Chad. There's a lot of streets that don't have sidewalk.
I am very much an advocate for sidewalks.
How do the streets ever get constructed in the first place without them is beyond me. But it's kicking
Exactly
can.
the
It's
way
kicking
that
the
I'm
can.
telling you.
It's kicking the
Exactly.
can.
So, I think street construction is probably one we really need to take some time and look at. There's a 33% increase, but that has to do, I'm guessing, with the projects and the activity.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And don't forget, I mean, kind of, the thing with
Yes.
this budget is the
I
year
know.
before, we had
Every
the
year.
big street
Yeah.
construction in
Yeah.
the TID number 7, that being the roundabout and the First Street. So then now that project is, but then that's a different fund than the street construction budget, so a lot of times you
I
get this
know.
cost shifting.
Well, I just hope on all these parking lots they're gonna redo that they pull open that dusty old riverfront plan and see the plan around the perimeter of the parking lots and they do them right.
Well, the only parking lots that stayed was this one in Centralia.
Oh.
And the Centralia one, we're not even certain, based on the funding stream that we're gonna do next year. Dixon was struck. There's no reason to, for us to rebuild that, and then, I mean, it doesn't get any use at this point.
Yeah, but it's on here.
Yeah, but it's the dollars
zero.
per year.
Oh,
Yeah, so Dixon's gone.
Kind of just left them in so you could see that that was taken out of the budget,
Sure.
you know, just kind of.
The one around City Hall is still in, and,
We'll have a new rain garden,
uh-huh.
that'll look better.
Are you gonna get a weed whacker over there and take care of it?
We'll have a better rain garden.
We've already, if we're gonna put one in, we're gonna do it right.
It's hard to make the constituents clean up their yards when they drive by City Hall and they see a bunch of weeds
Weeds
hanging
out.
over there.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It'll be gone next year.
Yes.
See, look at all the things you're getting, Chad. You should leave your very
This is like the
happy.
chat budget.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it is.
It's not the executive budget, Chad's budget.
And I appreciate the fact this is the first time Chad's been through this process.
It is, that's right. That
He's
appointment,
keeping us
that
honest.
that big appointment he got to finance. A powerful committee.
Relief clerical, I'm assuming that's just the general
Yep,
cost
they,
of doing business.
right, yeah, we have a couple people that for filling in for vacations or extended.
Retiree
sick
health
time.
went down.
Yes.
How did that happen? Well, I guess I probably have an idea. Let's not go there.
It could go down some more. No?
Good. So River City Community Access, their outlay went up. And I'm wondering,
It's on the community.
Website, I think, was one. And again, that's funding stream out of
it's out
franchise
of,
fees,
it's
but
fraud of franchise fees,
Mhm.
correct?
Correct.
So I don't usually get too bent out of shape regarding their budget at all, because I'm assuming.
yeah, not come out
Yeah.
of tax dollars. I guess
Right.
it's a form of fee, but
Just to let you know though, that they were gonna bump High Street up to like 2018, up to like 2015 or something.
I got on them. We
So-
got on them in
so
the
did
budget
I.
process. High Street and Chestnut Street, both
Yeah.
big projects.
So-
They
We
had
can
them-
afford it, we can
They
afford
had
it.
them like
Okay.
3-4 years down the line, so they ain't gonna last that long.
I'm with you. And we don't know what the undergrounds are. That's what we talked with Jem today. I mean, if they're gonna get more strategic, we need to make sure all of our
So
stuff is on the same page.
Tim, regarding the outlay for RCCA,
Mhm.
so we didn't typically budget these as line items, we just gave them a lump sum and said, good luck with that?
As for,
When you're looking at, there's nothing in the actual here, we
Well,
have
because
totals.
for the
I don't know.
description, I just use what the current request is because they vary from year to year that you'd have this long list of stuff. And so I just show what the actual expenditure was, but the
Gotcha,
detail is related to what they want in
that's what I was curious
2014.
about, okay.
Probably the most beneficial one there, besides the website, is the cooling and the heating. If you've ever been over there, it's
Oh, yeah,
a nightmare to keep that place.
Been there,
Regulated.
sweating and I've been there freezing,
Oh yeah, you guys had your meetings there. for a
Yeah.
while.
you never knew what you were gonna get. Okay, great. Room tax doesn't even really pay to talk about right now, correct?
I
Or-
have a question.
Yep.
That's where Park and Rec gets some of that,
Yes,
Correct. Goes to their outlay account.
and nothing's changed.
no, the percentages we
Percentages are the
shifted-
same as last year.
Last year we had the
Could you-
discussion about changing the
Could you
percentages.
tell me one more time how much is in that account, please?
I can't.
Did you see the outlay items, Chad? Or are they not?
They're not.
I got this thing 2 days ago.
I was looking through for myself. We talked about it. So they're gonna be separate, Tim?
I don't even think I got
Matches.
the outlay items yet, or that is the.
Okay, so we're gonna make a note of that, so we can make sure we have that conversation when we talk about room tax.
There's about 235,000.
Perfect.
Less the benches they bought for the skate park finally, after budgeting for those 2 years ago, I think.
And when we're all said and done, you'll have about 35 left.
Okay, pretty confident.
There you go. Plot and plan.
I do want to, the chamber has asked, and so has Reggie, since there is in there for economic development, that would be the source we would consider for any sort of contribution to Reggie. They asked me when we would maybe do that whole exercise, and I said, well, at this point, and I mentioned that the other night for the chamber, we still need to develop what are those objectives. Now, for Reggie, we're not under any sort of premise to move on that during the budget process from what you and I spoke, correct? So that request can come in at any time.
Right, because the room tax, we appropriate to the economic development line item, but then we can approve what we want to spend that on at a later date.
So at this point, I said the soonest would be the end of October, if we needed to, or November, but I said there's really no need. If we could just deal with the budget as the budget and then deal with those other items.
What we
for
wanna use
meetings
it
and
for.
stuff, it
Yeah,
just
that's
makes,
fine.
okay. That makes sure we're on the same page, I'll relay that back.
As long as the percentages aren't changing on the room tax,
They're not.
there's really nothing, as far as I have to discuss. I mean, that was, there was a big presentation last year. It is what it is.
No reason to change it up again at this point.
So special events are up, but again, it's not a huge amount of money.
Special events.
Yep, that covers all 4th of July parades, flags and banners that we're putting up. Or anything runs and walks that people have, if we have to barricade or stuff, or if we do some work for some of these events in town, like the Grand Affair. I know we always done some work for the Humane Society's winter fundraiser at Centralia, trying to get filling the snow boxes for the.
Well, our actual in 2012 though was only 22.2. Are we exceeding our 21.7 this year?
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'm talking not a big amount of money, I'm just curious.
Yeah, right now we have about 1,900 left.
Okay, and we still have,
You could have bought
In
that.
like November, December
have
of last year, we spent about
yeah.
$4,500.
I could have bought $1,900 more fireworks.
Well, no, because we still have the Rekindle the Spirit. I'm sure
We're probably gonna purchase more
Wednesday.
banners, I don't know if we're
Right.
through on.
Oh yeah, we'll be putting up the seasonal banners
Yeah.
coming up.
On a note related to filling the snow boxes, when Jim and I met the other day,
Mhm.
there was some things that the street department was doing that I kind of not questioned, but stressed that we better be tracking these items, and I don't know if they're showing up here. He and I settled or agreed upon a community benefits, for lack of a better term, for those items, like dropping mulch at the community garden and compost and all these requests that we get, so we can start budgeting for them, so they're not just getting attached to a project account. I mean, that's foolish to charge them to Pepper Street because you're driving back to Pepper Street for the project. You're making it drop first. So, that's an item that we probably want to. We're having inflated numbers elsewhere that if we've got them as a community benefit account in the street, in the cost account, to me, help us also decide, are these events we want to support? I mean, taking mulch over to the church, is that appropriate? Those types of things, So that was a conversation we had.
as long as you're also taking it to the temple and,
Well, right.
I guess
Yeah, but all that stuff's a matter of opinion.
Well, but we don't have a policy on it today. So my point is, if we don't start tracking it, we have no idea how much we're spending. And if we don't know how much we're spending, then we can't have a policy.
Right,
Because then they say, oh, we're not doing it. Well, we know it's occurring. I get carbon on emails, and so I know that we're getting asked to do it.
But I know when you start, I know you're not a big fan of the brush cleanup.
Not a big fan.
Well, when you start messing with that, you're gonna have a lot of pissed off constituents.
What are you talking about?
For brush, you said.
Oh, but I mean a
Because we don't-
policy
there's a
for
policy
cutting,
and-
right.
Yeah,
That's
it
a
started
different-
out being once a month or whatever it was, and then now there's. no
Oh,
way to
you mean
track
brush? So we did.
Picking up.
Our
the
Lean Six Sigma
piles,
project
yeah.
for monthly brush pickup, yes. I won't get into it tonight, but you'd be surprised how many households actually use it. We did the numbers last month for the pickup, and it's, 8,000 households, and I think we're to maybe 200 people, stops they did. I mean, that's a lot of cost for 200 stops. So, yeah, 200 people on unhappy, but there's 8,000 households. So I'm not. for this
Well,
conversation.
I'm all
It's
for
surprising.
creating a
It's
policy
surprising.
so that we're fair and consistent.
Mhm.
But
That's all we're
what that
asking.
policy is, I guess, is up for interpretation. All right, stormwater,
Utility.
yes. So the maintenance and well, stormwater administration, explain that piece. So 47% increase in stormwater administration.
Why is street sweeping down?
It's all based on our requirements, right?
Right. Well, I mean, the labor's the same, but it's looking like some of the overtime is going down in that, and then the actual calculated cost on the sweepers went down. So, stormwater administration is mostly engineering time. We have stormwater modeling. We have to deal with when someone builds or constructs, issuing a stormwater permit, making sure that they're putting in the proper stormwater retention on the property. Dealing with the billing and collection as far as credits and things like that. There's also, we have a stormwater consultant that works on our modeling to make sure that we're complying with the requirements. Most of the water and light charge went up for that.
Okay, moving along, we're going an hour and a half here, we have just a few left, and again, we're gonna have to come back to these, but just to hit the basic questions with the street department. The superintendent, the 6%, is that wages, salary?
Wages, a lot of it's overtime with the change from going from 45 to 40 hours for overtime for the street supervisor.
Okay.
Majority of the increase there. And also that we had a software maintenance contract at Cartograph. Now we're gonna have to start paying the annual maintenance fee on the software. That was budgeted for the first time in 2014.
And then the city landfill, ouch.
Which one?
The landfill,
Not the contract.
Where are you
the
looking?
Landfill site.
or, I'm sorry,
What page are you
Yeah, city landfill site.
yes,
101.
That was activity based and based on the equipment. That's the cost for managing the dump site at the Arneson Hill.
Well, Tim, where are we at for the brush and weed control year to date? And Chad, that's not brush pickup, monthly brush pickup. That costs us $73,000 a year. It's not it.
It's not
Brush
in
weed control. About 48,000 left.
Oh, okay. So that fall brush cutting on Riverbank and whatever else that's still got to occur. Okay, just curious. No, it's in there.
that better curve.
Well, I'm looking at you because I know you were passionate about that. 110 is the page of what activities.
I just want to see the town look nice. I mean, that's
Uh,
it's not my feelings. It's a lot of other people's too. You know.
okay. So
What did you say?
110 is the activities.
monthly brush pickup.
You were asking.
Hmm.
What was that?
Treasurer, that, nothing. And then the all,
Who's the deputy tax? Oh, is it tax collector? Is that the deputy pay?
the deputy
No,
is
it's
Shane.
it's part-time help. Laurel.
Oh,
Cameron,
that's,
in
okay,
it.
I thought
Yeah.
that was.
She helps
Never
with
seen that title before. Deputy tax collector.
But, yeah, because typically Dave can appoint.
I'll do that.
Yeah,
You know.
Guido,
I go door to door.
You could do that now, you wouldn't even have to be sanctioned.
And we talked quite a bit about wastewater at our last meeting. I don't, now I'm not sure what even to say about that. It is what it is. If the use is down, you don't get the fees. And we kind of bailed the department out last year.
Tim, when do you think we'll have well, I guess there's a couple of pieces of motion here, we'll open the meeting tonight. When do you think we'll have a consensus on that utility rate, the wastewater or sewer utility? Because that would be one that maybe they want to schedule a time to have that conversation, but we also need some better numbers too, just a better informed decision.
Yeah, I mean, I can connect with Jeff and figure out when he's got.
So I'm just saying maybe late October, that could be your Wednesday, that 30th, well, no,
Mhm.
the 30th meeting or something. That'll give us 2 weeks then to get.
I mean, we need a long-term solution. I guess that's my fear.
Mhm.
Every year, we can't come back and say, okay, we're still bailing out the.
Yeah, those rate increases are, at some level they're a necessary evil, but they're not in the sizable numbers in terms of getting a handle on what's fixed costs. And even that sludge disposal, once we get that Class A designation, then figuring out what that's gonna reduce that amount by, 35,000 potentially.
35, but then you still have the, depending on what you're gonna do with the sludge,
Sludge.
you'll have the.
I'm not saying we don't have really good experts and really good folks running this, but is there any benefit in bringing somebody from the outside in to say, here's how you could streamline what you're doing, or here's where you could cut some costs, or here's where, I mean, I don't know. I'm just spitballing out ideas here.
And where's the burden get shouldered, right?
Right.
Industry, residents,
Right.
Once we have the facts and
Right.
come to a consensus about that.
I'm just, I won't.
Well, yeah, and I actually talked with Jim Neitzel today, and I kind of said, it's like, maybe we have to task the wastewater commission to start really
Yeah,
looking
that's
at
true too.
their operations and coming
Well,
up
that's
with,
what I'm
I
saying.
keep
What-
saying, is coming up with a
Right,
multi-year plan as to,
right. I guess
How
that's
do we
what I was
close
kind of
this
saying,
gap?
and I wasn't thinking about the commission. I'm just saying at
Right.
some point, do we need an expert to come in and say, oh my gosh, here's why you
But it
guys are.
starts on the commission, having
It
them
should.
more engaged, we
Yeah.
talked about is absolutely critical at this stage.
Mhm.
How that message and when it gets conveyed is ASAP, just based on.
because they have the most control over the expenditure side of this budget as far as approving things, and so I think, we need to engage them in saying, okay, how do we work on both the expenditure side and the revenue side?
Yeah, there's only $1,000 at capital improvement fund, 1,093. They called me today, their village president wants to speak about it. Correspondence.
Okay, so here's my suggestion. We meet again on Monday. And what would be helpful at that meeting is if we can go through again, but let's go through it based on questions that, Chad, for example, when you've had more time to sit down and, or is Monday too soon? Do we want to just wait until next Thursday to do that?
Next Thursday.
That's fine, because you know what, let's not meet just to meet.
On Monday.
So forget Monday, that's great, that'll give you some extra time to, and if we could somehow communicate that to Andrew, that we went through the percentages, but we really didn't get
Okay.
specific on questions, because I know he has a couple, we had some of, my questions were answered, I feel good about that. If I had to say right now, I don't feel this urge really to meet with anyone. But you might not feel the same way when you go
He-
through line by line.
He answered a lot of my questions.
Mine too, Tim was right there, and actually, if I had read all the fine print, which I honestly did not have time to do,
Thanks to Tim for wordsmithing that.
a lot of those
it
answers
needed
are right there.
doctoring. It wasn't in complete
I will
sentences.
admit that during some very interesting training today, I was going through this with
Making good use of your time.
Wow, that must have been some really stimulating training. You turned
The
our
sex
document
offender
too.
Find
Yeah.
It's even that much more interesting in the document.
It's planning.
Well, good, that makes us feel better because, you know, well, the time that went into that document.
This is incredible. I can't wait to show it to a couple individuals that I work with and say, see what a nice budget looks like versus, you know, the
Process.
scratches that I get for my regional stuff. It's very frustrating. It's not broken out like this as manageable.
The accountant position did receive some positive
I think
praise
it's a
in
great
the, in
idea.
the staff meeting, because I think, you know, they recognize that if they had a liaison or whatever you wanna call that person, not to say that we don't have some of that right now, but when they get down to regular expenditures and cost accounting and metrics, there's only so much time you can
I
spend,
very
you know,
much-
with each of these departments, so I think that's would be a step in the right direction.
5 o'clock?
Sure. So that will make, that'll give us a little breathe. That's why I just wanted to kind of block these nights, but, and who knows, then for sure the 17th, for sure the 23rd. We'll leave the 21st as kind of a question mark. If we don't need it, we're not gonna meet.
Okay. And the 23rd is a joint.
Right, the 23rd is the joint. All right, I don't see any reason really to do the very painful pony show with the room tax.
We'll let them know. I'm sure they'll be.
Be relieved, yeah, just some meetings we have to get scheduled with them.
I just don't see the reason to have them come and dance. I mean,
The
and maybe it's
allocations are what
because,
they
but
are.
I, you know, I respect Chad if he needs that, because I've been through this so many times that I don't wanna ask about the cost of bullets anymore, the
It's all
cost.
how we wanna spend our time. We wanna spend our time debating it and, you know, having them present to council. I think those are better uses of time than sitting in a meeting pledging to do work.
Well,
that-
honestly, do you remember with Dick, we would go through every line item.
I remember back when we used to meet every Monday, Wednesday, starting in August. And
Yep, that, I was part of some of those, and
I mean,
then
we
really,
would-
we were talking about $2 in some
Oh,
places.
we would review like a telephone line item and
Yeah.
go back, what was the actual let to this year, last year compared to this year. And
All right, so I need, or
Motion to
we'll make a
adjourn.
motion to adjourn?
Second.
Aye?
Aye.
All right, Chad, thank you.